I'm going to be your host for the day, your MC, if you like, trying to keep us all in order and keep the event flowing. It'll be my job to introduce our speakers, not just for this session, but throughout the day. Those KDPs at Sellafield who are making the presentations about their projects. I'll be introducing those in due course during their sessions as the day unfolds. And we've also got some workshops as well. In a couple of minutes, I'll be introducing our first speaker of the day, John Rossiter, who's Head of Supply Chain for PPP at Sellafield. So it's our pleasure to welcome John to the event this morning to share some thoughts on PPP with us all. Before I do that, I'm just going to run through a few points around housekeeping and just share the skeleton of the agenda that we've got coming up. Okay, hopefully you can all see my screen that I'm sharing. We've got the opening plenary session now, which should last approximately half an hour. Welcome to all of you who've joined. Thanks for doing that. Hopefully it'll set the scene and provide some important context and background for the event we've got today. We've got three key features after that. Number one are the KDP presentations. Number two, the workshops. And number three, last but by no means least, are the one-to-one appointments, which many, in fact, the majority of you will have throughout the day, either as a so-called buyer, in inverted commas, or a supplier, in inverted commas, on the business development and sales side of the event. So just going to run through the agenda very quickly. After the plenary presentation, we've got the morning KDP presentations. We've got several KDPs represented as part of the event today. As you see on the screen there, KDP 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 and 10. So we've got a block of presentations in the morning from several of those KDPs, their key delivery partners, and we've got similarly a block in the afternoon. We'll be providing gaps in between those presentations, and obviously if you have got one-to-one meetings, you need to prioritize those. So please make sure that you attend your one-to-one meetings and you can drop in and out of the KDP presentations around those appointments that are in your schedules. We'll start straight away with the KDP presentations at 9:30 after we've heard from John, and then progressively through the event, we'll hear from William Hare, KDP 2, Sellafield, as you see on the screen there. We'll also hear from BBK, Balfour Beatty Kilpatrick, at 11, and then EJ Parker speaking about KDP 3 and 10. In the afternoon, we've got NG Bailey, Altrad, and Sir Robert McAlpine speaking about KDPs 4, 5, 8, and 10. Those presentations, I hope, are going to be very, very useful and informative for you all. We'll be closing the event at 4 o'clock. Just a few words now about the workshops. We've got half-hour workshops in the morning, and we've also got some workshops coming up in the afternoon as well. In the morning, we've got 2 workshops on cybersecurity and social value, and I'll be introducing those when they run. We've got the cybersecurity and social value workshops, as I say, in the morning, followed by 2 other workshops, modern methods of construction and commercial awareness. So make your choice if you haven't already as to which workshop you'd like to attend. They're kind of introductory sessions to those important issues that we all face as part of value chain around PPP. We've got some training, some free learning resources and skills resources as part of the Supply Chain Sustainability School. So feel free to make use of the Supply Chain Sustainability School following the event. Again, one-to-one appointments take priority. So please don't miss any one-to-one appointments during the day. Feel free to dip in and out of the workshops around those one-to-one appointments, which you'll be prioritizing. In terms of help and support, before we get to that, the one-to-one appointments, if you view your personal program within our environment, our conference environment for today, which is called Let's Get Digital, you will all have, who are part of this event, a separate personal program according to your individual logins. So you can view that personal program at any time. which will incorporate all of the KDP presentations, but also your one-to-one appointments. You can go to the main menu and look at your appointments or your personal program. Please, I know this sounds very basic, but please keep to time during your one-to-one appointments. That's quite crucial because we've probably got about 250 appointments during today. We need them to run to time to make sure that the event flows smoothly and that people don't miss out on those opportunities who are coming up either behind your appointment or in front of your appointment. So if everyone keeps to time, that'll help us do that. We don't have any bell or alarm that sounds, but please keep an eye on time when you're taking part in those meetings. Each appointment lasts for 10 minutes and there's 5 minutes leeway for people to change their rooms and go to the next meeting. Okay, help desk. Yeah, I was going to mention help and support. If you've got any questions or tech issues, particularly on the technical side, there is a help desk function. The Let's Get Digital event help chat can be used. There's a help question mark function at the top of your screens. Or feel free to email any of my colleagues who've been involved in all of the admin and preparation and organisation of the event. And thanks on behalf of all of us to them, Lorraine, Poppy and Yasmin, who've been working hard in the background to bring this event to us all today. So please feel free to email either Lorraine, Poppy or Yasmin at the supplychainschool.co.uk email address for the support that you might need. Okay, I think that's quite enough from me. I'd very much like to welcome John Rossiter, Head of Supply Chain from Programme and Project Partners, to give a short presentation as part of this opening plenary. John, thanks for joining us. Over to you.
Thank you, Andrew. Morning, everybody. Appreciate you coming along. So thank you for your time. I'll probably just echo something Andrew said in terms of the Supply Chain Sustainability School. It's a great platform. There's loads of excellent resources on there. So really pleased that the key delivery partners have partnered with the Sustainability School for this event. So yeah, just thank you to all the KDPs and the Sustainability School, and probably encourage everybody to look at the Sustainability School closely and look at your wider business in terms of CPD, and lots of great resources on there. Can we have the next slide, please, Andrew? So I'll talk kind of fairly high level, and I kind of won't make any apologies. There'll be people on this call that are already working in the PPP enterprise, that are familiar with Sellafield and know all about it. But equally, hopefully we've got a diverse range of attendees that know very little about Sellafield and what goes on in PPP. So I'm going to kind of start at the top. So Sellafield is a site on the west coast of Cumbria. For those that don't know, it was built as part of the arms race in the 50s. If you've seen Oppenheimer, then you'll be familiar with the race for nuclear weapons. What that did mean is they didn't think about what they'd do when they needed to decommission it. So over its lifespan, Sellafield's gone from a site set up as part of kind of atomic weapons race, developed into energy production. So its primary purpose wasn't a nuclear power generation site, and it's now moved to a period of decommissioning. It's a huge site, as I say, is over 11,000 direct employees just with Sellafield. That's probably not nobody on this call, or just a handful of people on this call. The supply chain itself is vast, so up to 43,000 people supporting the supply chain. For anybody eagle-eyed, my background isn't West Cumbria because it's actually sunny, so there's so don't get that too often. Definitely not this year. But as I say, it's a huge place with spending almost £2 billion a year on decommissioning. So of that £2 billion, roughly 600 million of that goes on major project spend, which is the space that PPP sits in. So as a bit of a background, prior to PPP, Sellafield had gone on a journey similar to a lot of the industry where they'd have major projects to build as part of the decommissioning process, which again, if you're not familiar with Sellafield, you kind of think decommissioning means taking things apart, which generally it does, but given the sort of inventory of nuclear waste at Sellafield, that means building new buildings to treat the waste as it's retrieved, and it means building storage buildings so that there's somewhere to put that sort of safely stored waste until some future point when it'll go to a geological disposal facility, which again, some of you may be aware that that's ongoing discussion in the UK at the moment about where we put it once we have a GDF. But in terms of project delivery, Sellafield had probably gone through a period of learning over the last sort of 20, 30 years. They'd gone through various different procurement models, like a lot of people in the industry, and generally always struggled in terms of delivering on time, delivering to budget, and actually delivering outcomes beyond the project. Which go to the next slide, please. So I think it's important to kind of just build on that a little bit, just to get the context of why we're here in PPP and what we're trying to do. So the catalyst of PPP was a National Audit Office audit in 2012. And that generally found things that were quite common across the construction industry and still are in some places, in terms of lack of learning from one project to the next, procurement strategies were fragmented, risk transfer was inappropriate, so it was often high risk transfer through the supply chain, which then led to issue and delivery. There was a huge Sellafield resource overseeing the project delivery, and generally, again, just adversarial relationships across the piece. Now, again, we won't read through all of those points, but what you got from that is inadequate definition of what the project was actually going to do. So again, we often talk about Sellafield being one of the most complex and hazardous nuclear sites in Europe, and what comes with that is the projects are volatile, complex, and uncertain. So it's very, very difficult if you get your project definition wrong to have a successful project. And then in turn, limited socio-economic benefit to the community. So that's a huge focus for PPP, that not only deliver our projects, but we actually deliver social economic benefit to the community in West Cumbria. And then again, in terms of long-term learning and how you get investment in socio-economic, generally each project at Sellafield have its own bespoke supply chain. Projects typically would run for between 5 and 10 years. So you'd have individual suppliers coming in to do a project for a set period of time, generally on an inappropriate sort of risk transfer basis, and generally not succeeded. To be fair to Sellafield, they describe themselves as a kind of humble client, in that realisation that actually many great contractors in the industry have came to try and deliver projects at Sellafield and failed, despite having really successful businesses outside of the industry. So Sellafield sort of used this National Audit Office finding as a catalyst to say, what can we do differently to address all of these issues? And next slide, please. So in the background, and something I'll touch on later, as I said, the whole industry was suffering from a lot of these problems in major infrastructure, where whilst you had some exemplars like the Olympics and the like that was seen as kind of delivered successfully as an industry, major infrastructure is not something that was being delivered successfully. So at the time, Sellafield developed program and project partners. There was bodies like the Infrastructure Client Group, the ICG, that developed initiatives like Project 13, which is the 13th initiative of the ICG. And that was a group of clients coming together to say, what can we do to do things differently and actually deliver the value that the many billions of pounds we're spending on our projects have always threatened to deliver, but historically failed to. So the Sellafield approach was PPP. So May 2019, it was awarded to 4 lot partners of KBR, Jacobs, Morgan Sindall and Altrad. Now, those lot partners were appointed on generally a management contracting type basis, where they oversee delivery of works in terms of integrating a partnership, delivering design solutions, and having Morgan Sindall and Altrad as construction delivery experts who oversee the management of projects. Now, the key point about PPP is a 20-year duration. There's fair and appropriate risk transfer. So again, I won't go into lots of detail on that today, but in terms of commercial models in the industry and appropriate risk transfer, Sellafield hold the risk that's appropriate for them to do so. A lot of partners likewise, and the supply chain likewise. And that's set in an environment where nobody can lose money. So generally everybody recovers their actual cost and recovers a level of overhead and recovers a level of profit. And then the balance of profit is earned through incentive. So the ethos of PPP is about profit performance, 20-year framework, a no loss environment, where instead of having individual projects, so we've got approximately sort of 10 to 15 projects now in PPP, instead of having individual projects that each go to market for an EPC contract or a traditional lump sum type arrangement, all of those contracts are delivered by one team throughout the duration of up to 20 years and £7 billion. Next slide, please. So the challenge for PPP, and I won't go through the detail on this slide because there's lots of information on there, but if you're kind of thinking back to that first slide of the challenges, what does success look like? So it's quite easy to say, well, we need to start delivering projects on time, and we need to start delivering projects on budget, and we need to start delivering some social impact and socio-economic benefits. But what does that mean? So in that sort of right-hand side of that wheel, you can see at the centre is the Sellafield mission in terms of clean and safe environment for future generations. And that is effectively a 100-year mission to remediate the site and make safe. Then you come to the sort of PPP critical success factors. So they're sort of in a wheel of cost management, workforce skills, outcome, employment, and output. That was what Sellafield developed as what are the critical success factors for PPP. So kind of name says it on the tin, really. It's critical that PPP delivers on all of those 5 things. So those 5 things in terms of cost management include savings on project baselines and not going back to government for additional business cases, developing workforce skills, developing employment in the region, ensuring that entities make profit if they perform and that the enterprise gets outcomes from what's being delivered. So those sort of darker blue circles around the outside, they're what the 8 business case benefits are. So this is what government measures Sellafield on around, is PPP performing? What did you say you'd do? And how does that work? So behind that, there are a set of metrics about what benefits we will try and achieve to then address the points in the sort of first slide about actually not a lot of positive. So lots of it around increasing high hazard reduction, increasing value for money, more opportunities, employment opportunities in the region, more confidence, and Sellafield being recognised as project excellence as opposed to recognised as somewhere where it's difficult to work, it's difficult to make profit, and being blunt, not the best, most attractive place for the supply chain. So the challenge we had with PPP is how do we get the best supply chain and how do we change the dial from people finding it's a difficult place to work, a difficult place to get to, hard to attract talent. But actually, we've got a £7 billion programme and we need the best in the industry. Next slide, please. So again, I won't sort of go through too much detail on our supply chain strategy, but it was based on developing Project 13 approach with PPP becoming early adopters. And that's around creating a commercially aligned and incentivized enterprise. So moving away from the sort of strapline of Project 13 is from transactions to enterprise. So moving away from one-off contracts, a very transactional approach, to an enterprise-driven approach to deliver outcomes for the end users. So again, where Project 13 has been applied elsewhere in the water. In our sort of sector, the end users for us in PPP is the stakeholders in the local environment, ultimately the sort of nuclear security of the UK. Just a quick shout out, there's some images there, construction playbook and constructing the gold standard, all worth reading. But as I mentioned earlier, in terms of the supply chain sustainability school, there's a great module on collaborative procurement. It's free, it's about 45 minutes an hour, and it just goes through, for those of you who'll be aware of reports like Latham and Egan saying the industry needed to change and be more collaborative. It effectively goes on a really nice journey through, well, how have we got from there to where we are now with Project 13 and what does it mean? So really useful, especially if you've not worked in this type of environment or if you've got teams that have been working on traditional projects and come across to PPP. But our challenge was bring that enterprise ethos to life. Next slide, please. So the way we did that was creating 2 categories of frameworks. So key delivery partners, who you'll hear from today, in its simplest terms, as Andrew's kind of framed it, they are the key categories of construction work, which are common on any major process and power type project through civils, M&E, equipment supply and the like. But those partners will deliver between them all of our work for the next sort of 15 years remaining now on exactly aligned terms to the PPP partners. So moving away from a world where you'd have your alliance or your framework partners on a nice commercial model, you'd then look to bring trade package contractors in on high risk lump sum contracts or whatever it may be. So they've got absolute alignment, and that's critical of PPPs to succeed, because everybody needs to have that confidence to invest in the enterprise. Everybody needs to know there's long-term surety of work. Learning from experience isn't limited to 4 companies. It's everybody delivering work on the project. And in terms of employment, output and skills, certainly what's been seen in West Cumbria for many years, that comes from the SMEs, the local companies, and the companies have got that willingness to invest in the region and in growth. Traditionally, major contractors have come and gone from Sellafield. They'll open a regional office, they'll deliver a project, and when there's no more work, they'll shut it and move on. So this is our sort of the big incentive for us with KDPs, and help for those KDPs to help grow their own supply chain. So some of you will be aware about the SME Matchmaker service that we invested in. That was ran independently by Solomons, and that was looking at how do we get SMEs partnered with key delivery partners, both for PPP and beyond PPP. So what's really difficult kind of challenge that we have in PPP is, and Sellafield more broadly, we want to grow and develop supply chain. We want them to be prosperous. We want to be profitable, but we don't want to be too dependent on Sellafield. There will come a time, PPPs, a 20-year framework, whilst Sellafield's got 100 years worth of decommissioning ahead. We do want businesses to grow and be strong outside of Sellafield and not reliant on Sellafield and West Cumbria. As I say, it's a difficult balance given the scale of work we've got, but that can only happen through events like today and relationships between partners and between their supply chain. So, and I'm really pleased, and again, just can't echo enough appreciation that the KDPs are running this event and are looking at both opportunities within PPP and wider business. It's absolutely what we envisaged when we set up the model. And we do have a consistent suite of NEC4 contracts, which we do our best to make sure that everybody knows what a PPP contract looks and feels like, can get up to speed, can learn it once. And that's a big journey we're going on in terms of both the cultural shift from traditional procurement to now, but everybody understanding how NEC4 works, how do we operate that in an enterprise environment. Again, if you can contrast that to traditional project delivery, where every project you get huge sets of suites of contract, you've got to learn them, you've got to upskill your team. We've got the benefit of do it once because we've got that in place for the long term. Next slide, please. So what we hope to get from that approach and the sort of high level benefits was that we have kind of aligned commercial terms, which gives certainty to invest in the region, enables growth, efficiency for everybody. So large, big projects where throughout the longevity of it, you can develop efficiencies and improve project delivery. Safe, no loss environment is really, really key so that people turn up to site, and as best as we can, we decommercialise project delivery and we look at focusing on aligned outcomes. So again, very, very sort of familiar story at Sellafield previously, where you might have your civil contractor come in first and they do okay, and you have your M&E contractors come in and they're all on top of each other, and it's difficult to try and align programs, and the main contractor's schedule is different to the supplier's schedule. So it's really, really important for us that we had a model that focused on what does success look like and is everybody aligned and incentivized. And again, really, really important for us to create those SME opportunities to make sure that we get long-term growth of businesses in the region and long-term investment in West Cumbria. So that social impact for us goes beyond the sort of easy, quick win type stuff, and it is generating meaningful change for the region. Next slide, please. So this is a high-level view of our current enterprise map in PPP. So this is all of our long-term partners and our strategic suppliers. So some of those strategic suppliers were already incumbent when we started on site, in terms of we had existing projects that we needed to mobilise very quickly and do traditional procurement. And then we launched the supply chain strategy. So at the point PPP was handed over, there was 2 major projects in flight that had in-flight one-off packages. All of those other sort of framework partners is how our enterprise has developed. So you can see the sort of 4 lot partners in Sellafield there, and the sort of to the left-hand side of the screen, we now got our tier 2 framework partners, which is the key delivery partners and some of our good supply partners. And then as we move over to the right-hand side, we're building our framework partners at tier 3. So at the moment, that's an ever-growing sort of piece, and I believe that's going to have sort of 40-ish SMEs in that framework partners of down to tier 3. I think something really important to touch on here, I know the KDPs will be completely aligned in the sessions you have with them. In the same way that if you look at those sort of lot partners, Morgan Sindall and Altrad, you can imagine £7 billion, 20 years, no loss environment in the nuclear sector. There was huge competition for PPP. All of the large contractors in the industry were bidding for it. Ultimately, what that does mean, if you have big winners and you have big losers, being frank about it, so there'll be big companies that were bidding for the civils partnership who then sort of effectively not got that opportunity at Sellafield. That same sort of approach runs through our supply chain. So whilst we have to be recognising that we have to be agile in how we deliver our solutions, we'll always have some suppliers will unfortunately go, some will be acquired, some will move. We'll have certain requirements that aren't fit for purpose in terms of the supplier we've got. What we are absolutely trying to do is create that aligned enterprise that is horizontal, it's not vertical. So work comes in from Sellafield and we look at who can deliver that in our enterprise. We keep our commitments to the enterprise, so we keep work flowing as best as we can, recognising the sort of project environment we've got, and that enterprise keeps its promises. So whilst these events are absolutely brilliant in terms of moving over to the right-hand side and our tier 3s, have we got the supply chain we need? Do we need it? Have we got any other gaps in our supply chain? What do we need? How can we work outside of PPP? All brilliant, and there's no closed doors. But again, I think everybody will hopefully be honest with you today in that what we get with an enterprise model is lots of excellent capacity and capability to deliver. I think, even on those logos alone, there's not much that those companies can't do in terms of delivering nuclear projects. We've got an absolutely brilliant supply chain, absolutely delivered on the challenge of go and get the best in the industry back to Sellafield. So whilst we need to understand there'll always be requirements where we haven't got partners for, there'll always be changes. It's absolutely right that if we're to get benefit from our enterprise, that those companies there are given the work that's suitable to them, and that they're able to then deliver our promises to us. But again, just to shout out in terms of the KDPs, the whole sort of matchmaker service, this is difficult. It looks like a nice picture, but nowhere else in the construction industry are the tier 3 gold standard frameworks where actually from an alliance and framework perspective, which is where the frameworks usually stop, where we've gone one tier deeper with our key delivery partners, and they've kept their promises and gone one tier deeper with their tier 3 framework partners, supported by the matchmaker service. So difficult to do, but absolutely essential if we're going to get the benefits that we need from PPP. Next slide, please. So just touching on some high-level benefits that have been achieved to date in the first 5 years of PPP, and again, as a bit of a contrast to the 2012 National Audit Office findings. So far, we've had validated benefits of £700 million, and that's validated as taxpayer benefits that PPP has delivered, with additional benefits of up to 1.5 billion identified. Lots of that as partly a product of some of the other things on there in terms of early contractor involvement, innovation. It really is a great sort of a great recognition of what the supply chain and what our industry can achieve. When you do have that long-term vision, you are involved early in projects, you are asked for your input as opposed to told what to build. You have lots of opportunities to find efficiencies and to find different ways of doing things, whether that's CO2 savings, whether that's procurement efficiency. But what we're seeing so far is green shoots that what we expected from the models coming to light. In terms of project delivery, again, the first 2 major projects, we've got SRP and SCP, which between them are the best part of £2 billion. They've received green ratings from the Infrastructure Projects Authority. There's only 6 green ratings in the whole of the UK. So again, we've come from a place of kind of it being seen that Sellafield's a difficult place to deliver, project delivery is fragmented and not great, to actually those green ratings are the first 2 Sellafield have had, and for the complexity and size of projects in the UK are a real recognition of the success of the teams. Through the matchmaker service and supported and the KDPs, we've got over 40 tier 3 SME frameworks that will be in place. So again, to start a PPP, the message from SMEs was a big EPC contractor comes along, gets a £500 million job. We wait, we attend meet the buyers, we knock on the door. Eventually we get the opportunity to bid for our package. We bid against 6 others. It's a lump sum one. If we're lucky, we win it and don't make much money. If we're not lucky, we don't win it and we do the same again when the next one comes along. And what that all meant was that absolutely constrains jobs and growth, because those companies don't have a pipeline of work. They don't have surety to invest, and they don't know they're going to make profit if they do win any work. What we've seen through our approach to the flip of that frameworks that could deliver up to 350 jobs, 150 apprentices and 6 million in facilities. And again, some early social impact success, things like our time bank scheme and our reading programs, and no doubt Claire Louise in the plenary will talk about some of the broader aims there. I think it's fair to say we're only just scratching the surface in terms of what we can unlock on a social impact front with the enterprise we've got. And again, it's great being recognised for awards and in a place where certainly major projects at Sellafield haven't been before. Next slide, please. So final kind of slide to touch on is just a high-level view of our project pipeline. Now, again, I'll kind of start with the footnote at the bottom, really, about the dynamic nature of Sellafield means our pipeline will always change, and we've just got to be adaptable to that. That's the benefit you have on enterprise. We've had a major project recently that was paused, which again, not great news. Pause in a major project that was in flight. That said, it was done for all the right business reasons. It was done by Sellafield as opposed to done to Sellafield by regulators or NDA or anything. And it was about taking the right decision for PPP. But it did mean we've been able to deploy a lot of people onto pipeline projects. So it is a volatile sort of pipeline, and that's nothing that we need to be ashamed of or hide. What we're talking about is retrieving nuclear waste that people don't know what it is. They don't know how it needs to be treated. And it may well be that pipeline will be ever dynamic and changing, but it is 7 billion, and we are here till at least 2040. On site at the moment, we've got SRP and SCP, as you can see at the top, which are about to go into very, very heavy M&E phases. So some of the KDPs today will talk to you around that. They're just about to hit site. Then we move into BEPS2 and LSS1, with LSS1 slightly behind BEPS2. And I will sort of probably earlier should have apologised for the acronyms, and I could and will. I could attempt to tell you what all the acronyms mean, but it's probably best left as acronyms because they're often acronyms and acronyms. Effectively, our project pipeline is large process buildings and large product stores. So SRP and SCP, large process buildings, BEPS and LSS, large product stores, effectively. So then we move beyond that into a future bulk of major projects, which again I won't touch on too much, other than one or two examples to say that we've already had, and I was really pleased to see an email last week pop up from the SWMRF program, which is probably, as you can see there, due to hit site in 2031. And we've had an email about some great feedback from our key delivery partners, providing ECI and helping the project team understand the size of some equipment, some key decisions. So again, that's just putting it into context. In 2024, people who will build the project in 2031 are already giving advice on size of equipment and pricing models and the like. So real shifting and changing of the dial there. And I think that is me. So next slide is our contact details, and no doubt you'll get lots of sort of these throughout the day. There's a print screen there to our LinkedIn page. It's always worth keeping an eye on for news and opportunities, and ditto to Compete For, which is the platform that PPP and the key delivery partners will be using to advertise any procurements we do have on the open market moving forward. And an email address there. If you do want to contact us, drop us an email. They always sound quite fancy, but they go to Dawn. Dawn's on the call today, and Dawn keeps an eye on that inbox if you have any central queries. Thank you very much.
John, thank you. Thanks for being with us this morning. It's been a really good background and context for the event, as we expected. A lot of detail there, and great to have your strategy shared with us over the longer term also. Thanks for also sharing your contact details. We'll drop them into the chat for people's benefit. So we're going to move on because we've got quite a tight schedule to keep to, and I'm conscious that many of you will be waiting already for the initial KDP presentation, KDP2 Structural Steelwork from William Hare. And we've got Craig Arnold to present on that, and with his colleague Philippa Rowlin, who's been supporting in the background. So Craig, I'll pass across to you, and quickly get your slides, okay, so we can have a look at those.
Thank you.
There we go. They should all be there, Craig. So just say the word and I'll move on when you're ready.
Yeah, if you go to the opening slide, please.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, just a second.
Last one.
What's happened there? Right, yeah. Sorry, just bear with me. I'll just get your full deck. I thought it was integrated into that, but it isn't. So just 1 second. William Hare, here we are.
There we go.
Is that more familiar?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
There we go. That's the one. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Craig Arnold. I'm the Business Development Director for William Hare, with specific responsibility for our nuclear sector. I'm assuming that the people engaging today do not know a great deal about William Hare, so I'm proposing a series of slides that will give you a feel for the breadth of our business and the number of sectors we operate in. And of course, we'll be looking for additional supplier support across our the spectrum of all the work we do. The slides, there's quite a few slides, so I don't propose to read out everything that's on them. Lorraine tells me you'll all be getting a copy of the slides. So as we go through the slides, I'll simply be adding whatever narrative I think is relevant to that slide. So the next slide, please, Andrew. That's the agenda we're going to discuss today. Carry on. That's our strap line. Okay, so basically one of the differentiators of William Hare in the industry is that we've remained a family-owned business. We're actually in our 80th year of operation this year. We have a global business. We have some 2,000 people worldwide, and perhaps with relevance to this presentation, we've been involved in the nuclear landscape for over 40 years. I personally have been involved at Sellafield since the early 80s, initially with Sir Robert McAlpine, and we've managed to retain a presence on that site ever since. Next slide, please, Andrew. That's just some statistics of the size of our business again. The self-evident, so we'll move on, otherwise I'm going to use all my time trying to sell the business. Next one, please, Andrew. Our corporate structure with several different companies. We have a hybrid structures company which incorporates the new trend towards timber frames and glue lam in the business. We have Sellafield, which is a safety feature for perimeter safety, Cell-Beam for cellular beams, and we own Richard Lee's decking, which again integrates into our business. Next slides, please. Cell-Beam is based at Wetherby. Again, you can read this in your leisure, but we can make beams over 2.5 meters deep, all custom built and automatically fabricated. Next slide, please. Again, Richard Lee's, you're all familiar with the decking. We secured this business some time ago to kind of vertically integrate our own supply. Next slide, please. That's Sellafield, the perimeter safety that we've developed. It's not the only one in the market, but it's one that we use and we market, and hybrid structures, which again brings in the current trend towards more sustainable products. Next slide. One thing we do bring to the table is quite a significant design capability. We have the ability for primary design, but mainly we get involved in connection design, temporary works, and fire engineering. This capability is particularly useful in the KDP, PPP environment, as it means we can quantitatively add value in the ECI, early contractor involvement stage, to design. And the Lot 1 design partners are very receptive to the suggestions we have as a fabricator erector. Next slide, please. Yeah, we have over 400 engineers within the business at various global locations. Mainly for this job, we'll be using UK facilities because of the security overlay on it. But it does mean then that we can ensure that the UK resources are available because of the resources we have elsewhere to drive the business forward. Next slide, please, Andrew. Again, supply chain is enormously important to us. As I'll say later in the discussion, obviously steel sections and plate are pretty fundamental to our business delivery model. So we have very robust, long-standing supply chains for the supply of steel sections and plate, and also for coating materials. Next slide, please, Andrew. We have high-class, high-integrity fabrication facilities in the UK. Just keep these slides rolling, and Andrew, and I'll probably tell you when to stop. I'll just add something in each one. There's a listing of our geographic representation of the various plants within the UK that would be involved in this product, and our global presence can be seen there. Our biggest facility being in the Middle East, where we support the global market. As I said earlier, we're in our 80th year in our current format, although the history of the business goes back beyond that. These are the diverse sectors that we operate in. So it's not all nuclear, and we do find a benefit from bringing learning from other sectors kind of across the park. Petrochemical and oil and gas is particularly innovative in their approach to work, and that gives us great tools to use in other areas. Next slide, please, Andrew. Again, just let these roll, Andrew. They're just giving you examples of what we do in the various sectors that we participate in. Keep it going. The self-evident. So just hold this slide for a bit. I wanted to share with the supplier community just kind of an overview of the process we have for supplier selection. What stage in our project delivery process do we seek supplier support? The process basically initiates in our estimating group, and they have to establish a budget price. And if successful, if we secure the work, this transfers via engineering and projects to our procurement group. Our core business is structural steel fabrication and on-site installation. Timely supply of structural steel and plate is fundamental to our business delivery model. And to address this, we have a robust supply chain for the supply of basic steel sections, plate and bolts. Bidders will have already been pre-qualified against a number of criteria, including QA accreditation, financial security, and performance references. Bids will be analysed, and I'm going to have to jump a page there somehow. The required overall scope of large projects includes related items that are generally supported and fixed to the steel. These items fall into two categories: specified proprietary items and generic items. The specified items tend to be prescriptive, and ours is to a great extent limited to sourcing these items, compliance to a pretty rigid specification, and ensuring delivery is in line with the construction schedule. For the more generic items, however, for example, roller shutter doors, open grid flooring, safety gates, etc., we do go to market with a duty specification to a minimum of 3 bidders. The bidders we choose will already have been pre-qualified on our system against a number of criteria, including QA accreditations, financial security, and performance references. Bids will be analysed and a shortlist developed based on specification compliance and the commercial offer. Final selection, however, is based on recent performance issues and, most importantly to us, a cultural alignment between the supplier and Hare's core values of customer support and proactive engagement. We feel this cultural alignment is particularly important on any PPP project. What underpins PP is engagement and seeing opportunities rather than issues. Okay, next slide, please, Andrew. Here's a list of, again, the kind of things we do outsource. I won't read through them. It's a long list, but when you get the slides, you can see if you feel you can contribute to the supply of any items on here or related items. People who are perhaps not in the nuclear environment at the moment, we'd be happy to, if we feel you have the capability to perform in it, we'd be happy to help you secure whatever quality accreditations you need to progress. Next slide, please, Andrew. Then we're down to any questions. I think one last point to make, particularly operating in the nuclear sector, is that whilst you may have high integrity fabrication, don't underestimate the need for very high level quality assurance to operate in that market. And that goes through to validating that materials are from sustainable sources, etc. At that point, it's a little ahead of schedule, but I'll have a question for Andrew. I'm not quite sure how that works, but.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. Yeah, don't apologise for being ahead of schedule. That's brilliant. It's got us back on track with regards to timing, and it's great. I didn't appreciate personally the range of sectors that William Hare operated in, so that's been quite illuminating, the slides that you've shared there, and hopefully very useful to have that last slide, which was the list of, if you like, the sort of shopping list of requirements, services and materials that you require for your contracts moving forward. So yeah, I'll open it up. If people haven't got used to their mics, I'm not sure whether they have or not, please just put a question into the chat for Craig, and we can work through those in the 3 or 4 minutes that we've got left for this session. So I'm just going to keep an eye on the chat as they, yeah, Lorraine's there in the background as well. Lorraine, if you can hear me, are people able to use their mics? I can't remember whether we've muted them for the entire event or whether people can switch them on and off.
No, the mics aren't on. It's just using the chat.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Well, I've got my colleague Philippa Ron with me, and Philippa will be conducting the extensive list of interviews you've set up for us. So,
okay, yeah.
Philippa heads up our purchasing group. She's been with the business. How long, Philippa? Now 5 years?
Yeah, 7.
7 years. God, I can't believe it. Everything's 18 months ago to me, unfortunately. So,
well, considering you've been working at or around Sellafield since the early 80s, it must seem like just yesterday, 7 years ago. So, yeah.
Well, as you can know, I was only 10 when I started.
Yeah, thanks for being with us, Philippa, as well, for participating in those meetings. We really appreciate it. So there has been a query coming in. Jonathan Law has been asking when you actually commence projects on site.
Well, obviously, the schedules we operate to in the general market are pretty much predicated by our client community. Typical lead time from securing an order to commencing on site, if it was a relatively straightforward job, 12 to 16 weeks. Generally on a nuclear job, that can extend to 16 to 20 weeks from order placement. But the real key to when we can start is not so much receiving an order as receiving solid engineering information from which we can do our material takeoffs, prepare our buying lists, and commence the detailed design. A lot of people think the starting gun is receiving an order. The starting gun is receiving high quality engineering for us. But that's the kind of lead time that we operate on. Again, PPP has given us a far longer view into that, and the earlier you engage, the greater the opportunity to add value. So it's been to date, it's been a very good experience for us within the PPP envelope that we're operating. And we kind of hope it rolls out to other major infrastructure projects that are hopefully on the horizon. So it's a very good form of contract. It's basically capturing, if you look back over the years you operate and you have good contracts and bad contracts, and KDP and PPP have managed to kind of cherry pick those facilities that made a good contract and build a contract strategy around it. So we're very delighted to be involved with it.
Thanks for that, Craig. Just as you've been speaking, Lorraine's reminded the audience of the email address for potential suppliers. And Jonathan's just dropped a thank you there for you as well, so appreciate that. Are there any other queries, comments, questions before we close? I'm conscious that people will have meetings to go to, so I've made a big issue around us all keeping to time, so I should practice what I preach. So on behalf of everyone who's listened in, there've been over 70 people on this presentation. Craig, thanks a lot for joining us this morning, and thanks again, Philippa, for being with us during the appointments, and we wish William Hare all the best for their ongoing work at Sellafield. The next presentation